David Icke. If someone had said to me 30 years ago that I would be speaking to you right now, I would never have believed it. And thank you so much for everything you've done. And welcome. How are you?
I'm very good, Guy, and I'm very pleased that you got something out of my work. And I've been reading some of your books recently, and I think they're very well written, and they put together the whole Tataria thing in very simple ways. I'm very impressed with them.
Thank you. Thank you. That really means a lot to me, especially coming from you. Where are you with Tartaria? What are your thoughts on it?
Oh, well, I've done a lot of reading on it. The thing is, what I do is I connect dots. And that means you don't just research one subject, you have to research loads and loads and loads of subjects, not least the nature of reality itself. So you could fit these dots together. And so, you pick the dots off over the 36 years I've been doing this now. But there's always more dots to pick off, and I've just turned my focus on Tartaria recently. Well, I say recently, the last few months. That's why I've been reading some of your books and other books on the subject. And I find it very interesting because it always has intrigued me when I've seen these rows and rows of houses that have basements that shouldn't be basements. That really, why would you go to that detail in a basement when I was going to see it? Surely that should be the first floor, or the bottom floor. And the other thing that's really hit me over the years, because I've gone and seen so many of these great cathedrals around the world and around Britain. There's some fantastic ones in Britain. I mean, Lincoln Cathedral, which is the last one
Yeah.
I went to, that is just breathtaking. But so are the others, and I've looked at the almost unimaginable work and detail that goes into them. I mean, just phenomenal, and the height of them, and all these different aspects of them. I mean, not far from me as I sit is Lichfield Cathedral, which is is phenomenal building. I mean, just fantastic. And then I look, okay, so what was the technology at the time? If people were going around in horse and carts. So there's something, it's like, there's more to know here. So I'm very open to that, but it's just encompassing it into everything else that I do, and into the whole concept that this whole reality is actually a virtual reality, which we might get into, and
Mm.
therefore, how does this all fit? Because it will fit.
But for people that aren't familiar with your work, and I can't imagine anybody watching this would fit in that category, but what would you say the most important concepts of your work they need to understand?
Well, because I'm a dot connector, it's the totality. Because there are people, and it's good. I'm not knocking it at all, who focus on one particular area. But if you look at the totality of it, you'll see that all these different areas that people are focused on and specialize in, that they all connect. And so it's that tapestry level rather than the strand dot level that really does open the mind to the big picture. But basically, what I'm saying is this is a virtual reality, and when I started saying it, there were very few that were saying it. I mean, I looked around for anyone else that had come to that conclusion. This is just after the turn of the millennium, and pretty much there was one guy called Nick Bostrom, who was a professor at Oxford University, who was getting a bit of publicity, not a great deal, but a bit of publicity for saying this could be a simulation. And now, if you look at the whole spectrum of this subject, more and more mainstream scientists, since about 2016-ish, have started to come to the same conclusion. Actually, this does look like this, it's some kind of simulation. And when you break it down, you get into the detail, you get into the energetic, sacred geometry type detail. You realize that the codes of this quote matrix are all around us. And you go on to YouTube or whatever now, and you put in that kind of group of words, and you get so many videos now that are talking about the fact that, hey, this is a simulation. And then I started looking at what the ancients said, and obviously came across the Gnostic belief system, which is basically describing the Matrix.
Yeah.
They describe it in terms of a bad copy of prime reality, if you like, but they're describing the basically the same thing. And what I'm looking for when I've been researching all these years, these decades, is I'm just coming up to 74 this week.
This week?
This
What
week,
what
yeah,
what day?
April 29th.
Oh, my youngest son Sam, who's a huge fan of yours. It's in the blood, you see. My dad started us, and it's his birthday tomorrow. So,
Oh, Brill. Oh, it's a
yeah,
Taurus then.
yeah, and
Oh,
mine's 17th of May, so we're all Taurus.
yeah, we're seriously stubborn. And a bloody good job in my case over the years. But well, I'm looking for patterns, and uh, so I'm looking for patterns between belief systems that in so many other areas would disagree, but in these particular areas, these patterns, they have agreement. And one of the agreements between ancient and cultural belief systems and religions, etc., is that this human reality is manipulated from the hidden, from the unseen. And I've gone into that in great detail over the years, and I absolutely agree that it is. And another area of agreement is that there is a negative force which is overseeing or manipulating this human reality.
What do you think that
But
is, David? The negative force. What do you think that is?
right, well, if I could just maybe just go down the pyramid
Yes.
into where we are now. See, what happened in the early 1990s after the top of my head blew off, and I had the extraordinary paranormal experiences, which kind of launched me
Mm.
out of television and into this the quote journey. Uh, it was the early 1990s. I started putting together the fact, and when my head blew off, it's a long story. In 1990, 91, I suddenly started having this extraordinary synchronicity in my life where I would walk into people, documents, personal experiences, books, whatever, that were like handing me puzzle pieces in like putting a jigsaw together. And when you're putting a jigsaw together, first of all, when I ever do a jigsaw, I haven't done one for ages. I want the bits with the straight sides so I can get the frame. That's where I want first. And then you put more and more pieces in, and the more pieces you put in, the quicker you can put them in because you can see where they go. And so in that early period, early 1990s, I became aware early on that prime ministers and politicians weren't running things here today, gone tomorrow. But something else was, and I started to realize that a few people were actually running human society. Comparatively few people compared with the number of people they were running, which is apparently 8 billion. Well, so they tell us. And my question was, how do they do it? Because you have this response. A few people can't control the world; it's impossible. Well, what I would say in relation to current events is Donald Trump. I rest my case. Donald Trump, one guy. It's not one guy. It's people working through that one guy. But in officially, one guy is writing his executive orders or going to war with people has created a situation in which incrementally, the longer it goes on, more and more and more people globally, everywhere, are going to be affected by that decision by that one guy, officially that one guy, and because he's just a gopher, but officially,
Yes.
and so the idea that a few people can't control the many is ridiculous because it's happened throughout human history,
Mm.
and there's reasons for that, perceptual reasons, which we might get into. So I started looking for the structure and started with a network of secret societies that I call the global cult, which, if you think of a spider's web encompassing the planet and infiltrating every country now, and institution and Silicon Valley and World Health Organization and Big Pharma and all these corporations, especially communication corporations. So you look at that and you think, okay, people would look at that and say, no, that where's the coordination, and how can a few run the world? Well, it is actually ridiculously simple once you have certain things in place. So the symbol, one of the major symbols of this conspiracy, this human control conspiracy, is the pyramid and all-seeing eye. You see it in so many places. You see
Yeah.
it a lot in kids' animations, ridiculously, you would think. And you see it on the dollar bill, and you see it on the reverse of the Great Seal of the United States. And I can't think that people watching this won't have seen it, but for those who maybe haven't, it's a pyramid with levels, and at the top of the pyramid is a all-seeing eye, a brilliant all-seeing eye. So what I have understood as I've uncovered this is that all-seeing eye is a state of consciousness. It's the consciousness that pervades and controls the pyramid. And that consciousness is chaotic, it's schismatic, it's all over the place in terms of balance and harmony. But it is, in its own intellectual sense, I guess you'd call it, very, very clever. So it's cleverness without wisdom, I would call it. And cleverness without wisdom is the most destructive force on Earth or anywhere else, because it may be very clever to make an atomic bomb. It's not wise to do so or to
Yes.
use it, right? So, and this consciousness operates overwhelmingly or originates in another dimension of reality. It's what people call the astral dimension. And
Yeah.
people they look up when they think of heaven. Am I going to heaven? But actually, of course, it's not like that. These different dimensions of reality are different bands of frequency, they're different wavelengths. And therefore, they share the same space without interfering with each other unless they're very close on the dial. And this astral dimension does reach a point in its lower levels where it does kind of start to interact with this one, interference, if you like. And that's where the whole phenomenon of ghosts and the paranormal, so many paranormal things are coming from, is where they originate. But overwhelmingly, we're not aware of these other dimensions because they're on different wavelengths. They're not on the wavelength that we are experiencing, which we call human. So within this pyramid, the upper levels of the pyramid, the hierarchy, it's all hierarchical, is they are entities that have been created by this consciousness as expressions of itself. Now, you look again across the ancient cultures, the ancient belief systems, the cultural belief systems, the religions, and you see a common theme. First of all, you see, and I would say this is the consciousness being described. In Christianity, they talk about Satan or the devil. In Islam, they talk about shaitan. The Gnostic belief system talks about the demiurge or Yoda Baoth, and on it goes. These are different names for this consciousness, I would say. And then this consciousness created these entities as basically emanations of itself. They are extensions of itself. And again, you see the same recurring theme. In Christianity, they're called demons. In Islam, they're called jinn. In the Gnostic belief system, they're called archons, which is Greek for rulers. And so it goes on across the spectrum of belief in this pattern of agreement. And so this is all happening in this astral dimension. But of course, this consciousness seeks to manipulate the human dimension. And so it has to express this pyramid within the human society, within the human band of frequency. And that is the global cult, as I call it, this global network of secret societies that is fiercely compartmentalized in the same way that as individual secret societies are compartmentalized. You know, the vast majority of Freemasons in the world are on the bottom levels of degree, the so-called blue degrees. But there's 33 degrees of the Scottish Rite, and then there's other degrees above that that aren't even official. And you only get to the next level within this hierarchy of secret societies if that level decides that you are worthy of being accepted into it. And so you have this fierce compartmentalization. They call them levels of degree, but what are they really talking about? They're talking about levels of knowledge. This old way of need to know. Only let different levels need to know what they must know to make their contribution without knowing what the big picture is that they're actually part of and contributing to. So these secret societies, or this global cult, it can be very simply described in the sense of a spider's web around the planet, and each strand of the web is a secret society, a semi-secret group, or governments, government agencies, Silicon Valley, World Health Organization, within the world of the scene. And in the middle of this web, this secret society web, I put a symbolic spider from which it's all coming. The whole agenda for humanity is coming. And that spider is in this astral dimension. And so within human society, you have the secret societies, the most exclusive of them, that are interacting with this spider level, if you like, this other dimensional level. And they're the most exclusive secret societies. And then you come out within the web into the secret societies we know about, the Freemasons. I mean, their inner circle, not the the people that go down the lodge in towns and cities all over the world. They include the Knights of Malta, the Knights Templar, the Opus Dei, the inner core of the Jesuit order. My God, there's so many of them. But they have an interlocking mission control leadership that's driving them. And that doesn't mean that people within these secret societies, the most exclusive ones, they will be. But I mean, most of them in the lower levels have any idea what they're part of. They're part of something that they think goes to a certain level of manipulation and deceit, but they don't know the big picture of it at all. So you're coming out from the spider symbolically through these secret societies. And you then hit what I call the cusp in the web, which is where the hidden part of the web, the secret societies, meet the seen part of the web, which are what we see as institutions, governments, like I say, and government agencies and so on. And that cusp level is where you find the World Economic Forum. It's where you find the Bilderberg Group. It's where you find the inner core of the United Nations. It's where you find the Club of Rome that was created by this cult in 1968 to use environmental concerns and invent them to justify centralization of power, which is what this whole thing is about, constantly centralizing power, because that means every time you do, fewer people are controlling the lives of more and more. That's what centralization of power is all about. That's why we have the European Union, for instance, which is a phenomenal example of the centralization of power. And also in this cusp, you have the non-governmental organizations. Again, they're compartmentalized. Most people think they're doing a certain job and whatever the NGO is supposed to be about, but the inner core will know that they're part of this web. And you also have this absolute kind of cacophony of think tanks and think tanks, and indeed the cusp in general is there to take the agenda of the spider coming out through the secret societies and to play it out into the public arena as changes in law, changes in the direction of society or a continuation of direction. And then you come out into the scene, and to people observing, looking on, it all seems totally bewildering because, how does it all fit together? Why did they do this? Why did they do it that way when this way will be better for people? Well, the idea is not for anything to be better for people. It's to be better for this cult and that which controls it.
Yeah.
So you have, again, organizations that are fiercely compartmentalized. It's all based on that. So if you look at the World Health Organization, it was created, which was absolutely the driver of the COVID hoax. It was created in 1948 as part of the United Nations by the Rockefeller family that are subordinates to the Rothschilds. And it's now run for the Rockefellers by Bill Gates, and the Gates family and the Rockefeller family go way back. Some genealogy says they actually at some point converge. And you have this guy, Ted Ross, who's the frontman, official a guy running the World Health Organization, but he's just a gopher. He does whatever Gates tells him, and Gates will do what the Rockefellers tell him. And this is how it works in the hierarchy. And so all these organizations, these Silicon Valley corporations, I mean, the idea Elon Musk is running those companies. I mean, please, But so they're all frontmen, they're all gopher, and it's all compartmentalized. So, for instance, if you see how this structure works, there's a point, a level in all these institutions and corporations and government agencies, where they attach to the web. Most of the people working for them will have no idea there is a bloody web. Never mind, they're attached to it, or their organization is. But there's a level of these organizations that is attached to the web. Now, at that level, this is where it starts to get simpler and simpler. At that level, they are the same team. They are on the same team working towards the same goal. So when COVID broke, you had the World Health Organization giving the official version of COVID and how government should respond, which almost all of them did. And then you had Silicon Valley social media corporations and video corporations like YouTube saying, we're going to censor anyone that challenges, questions, actually exposes the World Health Organization version of COVID. Now, on the face of it, that's insane, because it's supposed to be where we exchange opinions. But when you realize that if you go deep enough in Silicon Valley and deep enough into the World Health Organization, you're hitting that web level. So what was happening was that the social media corporations were protecting social media corporations, the web, were protecting the World Health Organization, the web, from challenge and exposure by censorship. You had the big pharma corporations like Pfizer and Moderna going to these what should be government protectors of the population from big pharma organizations like the CDC and the FDA in America and the MHRA in Britain. And they were asking for this fake vaccine, not even a vaccine by previous criteria, which has been devastating for people's health and life. They would go to these apparent protection organizations, and they'd ask for permission to use this fake vaccine on younger and younger people, right down to babies in many cases, and they would get it. They almost every time got it. But they weren't doing credibly any testing to show the safety of it. They'd done lots of testing over many, many years to get the effect on people that they wanted, but in terms of protection, no. So why are you giving them permission? Because if you go deep enough in big pharma and deep enough in these protection organizations, you hit the web. And so the web is giving permission to the web to advance a COVID fake vaccine web agenda. This is how it works. So you suddenly start to see that these apparently random organizations and random events making random decisions are not random at all if you go deep enough into them. And the point being that all of that I've just described in this global cult web is answering ultimately to this astral hierarchy of demonic entities and the demonic consciousness that pervades the whole web. And this is and the whole pyramid, the whole hierarchy. And this kind of starts to make sense in that what is this consciousness that Gnostics call Yoda Baoth, or and others call other names? It's psychopathic. It's distorted, it's extraordinarily disharmonious. And if you look at the traits of psychopaths, and this is super psychopathic, it's beyond description. The two top traits are lack of empathy and lack of compassion. In fact, deletion of empathy and deletion of compassion. And I've always called empathy the fail-safe mechanism of human behavior. In that, if you can put yourself in the feelings of those you're affecting, it limits what you will do in relation to them. If you have no empathy and thus no emotional consequence, whatever you do to those people, well, there are no limits. You'll do whatever you want to do. And this is when people have said to me over the years, they would never do that. No, you would never do that. They'd do it and they'd get off on it as they do. And so this psychopathic consciousness, because this whole hierarchical pyramid is an expression of that consciousness and controls and directs expressions of that consciousness, like what the Gnostics call the archons and all these other names that different religions and what have you give to them. And it also is the driving consciousness, the driving state of mind of this global web. So when people say they'd never do that, well, they would never what? They would never bomb civilians and children in Gaza since October 7th. They'd never do that. They'd never bomb civilians in Iran, etc. They'd never do any of this. They wouldn't manipulate deprivation around the world for reasons of control. They wouldn't take action that potentially, and we're getting closer to it all the time, will absolutely devastate the lives of vast numbers of people globally, which is what's happening with this whole energy supply situation that we're facing now. They wouldn't do any of that. They wouldn't start wars. They wouldn't start world wars then. They wouldn't start the First World War, Second World War. They wouldn't do any of this. They wouldn't hide the cure for cancer. As it's, if anyone does the research, these people know what cancer is and how to deal with it, but they keep it from the public because, as one of them said, well, people have got to die of something. They might as well die of that, right? As long as you don't, right? Okay.
Yeah.
So this psychopathic consciousness that I'm describing that pervades this entire hierarchy through the astral and into this reality explains why the world is as it is. There's other reasons why it's like that as well. But that consciousness has no empathy and no compassion. And so it will do whatever it feels is necessary to get the outcome that it wants. And what I have been trying to emphasize and getting a lot of abuse for it over the years, especially recent years, as I've seen the alternative media or the focused part of it that gets all the algorithmic support and funding. I've seen it particularly in the wake of COVID, when a lot of people started to wake up. I've seen it focus attention on this conspiracy as on merely the political level, Trump or Harris, Farage or Starmer. And that's just the play out level of this. That's just they're just the gopher level of this. The hierarchy is and the whole thing is vastly greater than they want us to see. And this focus of attention, is Trump and what's happening with Trump, all this stuff. Okay, you got to look at it, and you've got to uh, look at what's happening and why. But why it's happening is coming from here. It's not coming from here. And if you lose the understanding of that, then you're basically still in a state of myopia, while the what you're being manipulated by is a vast spectrum. And maybe we can get into this, but it's in the understanding of the scale of it and how the whole thing works that the answers lie. Because the answers don't lie here.
No.
They want us to think they do. But I mean, okay, if you're only looking at the political level and it's all a political manipulation and conspiracy, then how do you get rid of this political party? Well, you vote for the other one, okay, and then when that does pretty much the same, using different rhetoric, but the direction of travel is the same. How do you get rid of that? Well, you go and vote for the one that you voted for before and didn't like. Okay, yeah. So you go round and round and round and round. And that's what they want. They want us to continually think that the whole thing's a political and it's a decision. People say when they don't like either party, they say, "Oh, what we need is a new political party." It's the last thing we bloody need, mate. What we need to do is understand what the bloody game is. And what they're trying to do is focus our attention and misdirect our attention. And Trump's perfect because you never know what he's going to do next, nor does he, because they're trying to get to the end game. And we're seeing it unfolding. And that's AI human fusion.
And the hive mind,
and the hive mind, and the digital control system. China is the blueprint for it. And if you think about it, people have said, okay, AI is coming in, and AI is this, and AI is that, or I'm worried about AI, or whatever, or AI is great. But I don't hear this question: what is AI? What is it? First of all, I would strongly suggest from my own research over the years that this whole virtual reality matrix simulation is actually run by AI. It's not run by people pressing buttons, it's run by AI. And that level is now coming into human society as an extension of the overall AI that's running the matrix. But, okay, you have algorithmic AI, which can boost your profile or suppress it. And you have this level of AI, which where everything you post on the internet is being delivered to this level of AI. So AI knows more about humanity and what makes it tick than humanity does. But there's another level of AI, and I say that's the one that they want to fuse with humans. And that's this consciousness, which the Gnostics call Yaldabaoth, and others call different names, but it's talking about the same thing.
Do you think that's where the Neuralink comes in?
Yeah, well, you see, the thing is about Neuralink is you've got to be very careful because, this consciousness, which expresses itself through all these different elements down the pyramid, it's stupid because it wouldn't be doing what it's doing unless it was bloody stupid. And if you look at the ancient descriptions of this consciousness or this entity as they would present it, you see the recurring words like the foolish one and what have you. It's foolish, but it's not stupid. It's clever. It's clever in this sense more than anything else. It is absolutely brilliant, and this is something that pervades the entire pyramid. It's brilliant at manipulating human perception. Because if you've got human perception, you've got human behavior, you've got humans, end of story. So it's brilliant at manipulating that. And and it can be very, very subtle in how it does it. And if you're not streetwise to the perceptual manipulations, then you lose the plot. You lose the idea of what's going on. For example, if you look at this level of the world, the level that we interact with and we see on the news and everything, then what's happening with Iran and the Strait of Hormuz is a terrible thing. Look at the implications already, but look at the potential implications that are catastrophic if it goes on. And it's like, why are they doing that? You know, why have they shut the Strait of Hormuz? Okay, well, that was a reaction to the attack by Israel and the United States, Trump and Netanyahu. And then Trump says we're going to have a naval blockade of the Strait of Hormuz, and oil's not flowing through there, et cetera, et cetera. And you think, this is terrible. But if you go to this level, back in the shadows, it's exactly what they want. Exactly what they want that's happening. It doesn't matter whether Iran's doing it or whether Trump's doing it. It doesn't matter. The outcome is what matters. That's why I say to people, if you want to know what's going on, look at the outcome. That will tell you what's happening now. And so if you want to transform human society very, very fast, and part of your transformation is this whole AI digital control system on the Chinese blueprint, then you look at society and you say, on what basis does society as it exists now depend? Okay, it depends on energy supplies, right? And what else does it depend on? What about its food? Well, that depends on kind of the way things have gone. It depends on fertilizer then to get the levels of food that they need. Okay, now if we shut the Strait of Hormuz, how does that impact on that? Well, it massively impacts on that. And you'll notice, Guy, that in this same period, these oil refineries literally all over the world are going up in explosions. It's extraordinary, the number in this period of this Iran war, that the oil refineries in all these different countries have all gone up. And so what you're doing is you're taking out the foundations of society as it is now. Simple thing. If you want to transform society into this AI digital control system, human AI fusion, and the status quo as it is now, which is a cult status quo, they're just moving along a sequence, but it's a status quo that's not moving, then you're not going to bring in your transformed society. You need, first of all, to trash the status quo so the new society can come in. That's what the First World War was about. After the First World War, the world was a totally different place. After the Second World War, a totally different place, and you had all globally centralized institutions created. And through the period of my life, since I was born in 1952, it's been the post-war society, basically, what they call the rules-based society. Although there's been ups and downs within it, it's been pretty stable. But now they want to end all that and bring in this whole dramatically transformed society of total control. And Trump is your perfect guy. I said during these 2024 election campaign, this guy is a cult frontman
Hmm.
He's going to be brought in. He's not going to do what you think he's going to do, and he's going to basically trash the status quo, and he's going to facilitate, in America at least, and the West, the AI transformation of society in the way that it's moving it closer and closer to the way China works now. And what has he done? What he's done with his tariffs, what he's done with his war in Iran, is trash and dismantle society as it was before he came in. And he's also, I mean, it took him 2 days to wheel out Larry Ellison and Sam Altman to announce this up to 500 billion Stargate AI operation. And he's been pushing AI more and more, and 6G, which is a fundamental trigger point in this whole scenario. So he's doing both of those things, trashing the old society and facilitating the new. And in China, they're well ahead of him. They're already doing it.
They're the benchmark, aren't they?
Yeah, they are. They are. And you know, I did a video this week for the Iconic platform, which looked at how, I mean, if you go back to almost to the 1990s, probably into the 1990s, I was saying that from what I was uncovering, that the plan was that the center of power in the world was going to move eastwards into China and Russia, India, that whole area. And if you also look at what I said, and you can see this in videos on the internet from some many years ago now, I said that the trigger point could be Iran, and to make this happen, and quite possibly trigger a third world war, depending on how it went. So you then had in 2024, you had Iran joining this BRICS alliance of countries dominated by China, also Russia, also India. And so Russia and China have been supporting Iran in all this, I'm sure supplying weapons and what have you as well. And so now you have this situation where Iran has become immensely more powerful than it was before in its effect over global energy supplies and much other supply chain. And it's supported by China, it's supported by Russia, and the power, you see the power moving eastwards. And this began long ago when American and Western corporations, because this cult plays the long game and prepares incrementally in this sequence. It started outsourcing its production to China and the Far East. And so now China has control of the supply chain for vast numbers of products, including essential things. Someone pointed out during COVID that basically the West was dependent, and particularly America was dependent on China for antibiotics supplies. And so this movement of production to China has given China tremendous power and control over the supply chain. And the power's gone on moving eastwards, and the idea eventually is to have areas of the world very much in the George Orwell 1984 style of different areas of the world that are basically hemisphere regions of control, countries joined together. So now you're seeing the development of the BRICS alliance. You've got the European Union, of course, and now we've got the Trump regime calling for the greater North America. And interestingly, the grandfather of Elon Musk, a guy called Joshua Haldeman, he was involved in something called Technocracy Inc. in the 1930s in Canada before he moved off to South Africa, where Musk was born. And Technocracy Inc., which was a Canadian American operation that wanted governments to be run by technocrats and bureaucrats and not elected politicians, it produced a map of what it called its technate. And it was Venezuela at the bottom on the north end of South America,
Right.
went up through Panama, up through Central America, up through Mexico, into the United States, up through Canada, which was all part of this one technate. And the top of the technate was Greenland, which is kind of interesting given what's happened since Trump came to power, when he
Yes.
never even mentioned it before in the election campaign. And now you've got this Iran with its power over energy supplies, now part of this BRICS Eastern Alliance, and you can see it coming into place. And the overall, ultimately, is to have these hemispheric regions, super states, in effect, controlled by a world government that, like all of them, wouldn't be elected. It would be selected, and bureaucrats and technocrats and what have you. And if you look at China, it's absolutely the blueprint. They don't elect the government of China. It's decided for them. And that's the idea. China's the blueprint.
I don't see that being that different to what we have now because I do not believe, and I never have done, that our votes are counted, and that this is all put in place by Chatham House, Bilderberg Group, Trilateral Commission, that they're putting the world leaders in, and whoever goes into office, as you said, they're puppets. They are just doing they they're kind of like the fool guy, aren't they? They're tasked with taking on the agendas, and they're either putting the firing line as a direct result at the end of it, or they're put on a pedestal and praised. But ultimately, it's not them calling the shots. They are controlled.
Absolutely not. I mean, I would say to people, just look at the direction of travel. Whichever party is in power, look at the direction of travel. And, the rhetoric may be different, and the speed of travel may be faster or slower, but the direction is exactly the same.
Mm.
Whoever, it's like when I first went to America talking about this in the early 1990s, they used to have this, or mid 1990s, they had this saying that I heard many times: it doesn't matter who you vote for because the government still gets in, right?
Yeah.
And that really does sum it up. And you have a politician. They come in for a short time, can be a very short time or 2 terms maybe, and then they're gone and they're replaced by someone else. But nothing changes of fundamental nature in terms of the direction of travel. If you look at all these different apparent political parties, very few of them, very few, and minor parties, not major ones, are pushing back on the AI takeover. And yet that is so fundamental to human control. It's my view. I've been talking about this for years, that the Mao Revolution in China was a cult revolution, and it was to create a country with a massive population that was basically a closed society for a very long time, still is to an extent, where the government was not elected, didn't change, and the direction of travel was absolutely fiercely the same through the decades. And the idea was that China would incubate and develop a system of mass human control. In the end, uh, technologically, and that once that incubation and development had been put into place and had been tested and all that, it would then be played out across the world and would become the world system. And if you look at AI and that whole area, China is so far ahead. I mean, we hear about all the Musks and the Teals and all that stuff, and yeah, they're all part of it. Oh, absolutely, they are. But China is the cutting edge, and they have millions of cameras in the cities. They are able to find people literally in minutes. I've seen documentaries on this through facial recognition. And so, what you're seeing now, and particularly since COVID, where the virus was supposed to come out of China, I say there wasn't a bloody virus; it was all a scam. Even on that
I
level.
agree. Yeah,
Um,
totally agree.
I mean, where is COVID now, by the way?
Mm.
But what has happened since that COVID period is that the West has become more and more and more and more like China.
Mm.
And you know, another thing that I'm seeing, I mentioned this in this video I did for Iconic this week. You're seeing more and more videos of particularly Westerners in China who are telling the West how fantastic the Chinese system is. And there was one I featured where there's a lady saying, you know, everything you need is all around you. You don't have to go very far. Well, that's the 15-minute city idea, where you ultimately limit movement to within 15 minutes or so walk or cycle ride of your home, and the necessities of life are put in that all around you. And China is way ahead of it. And there's others that are pushing the fact that Chinese hospitals are fantastic. I'm sure not all of them are,
Mm.
but the ones they show are. And if you want to sell the Chinese system in the area, for instance, of healthcare, then what you do is you run down your own healthcare system in the West, and you run it down as they have with the National Health Service, as they have with the system in America, and so on and so forth. And you then tell them how fantastic the health system is in China. But with the health system of China, where people say, oh, yeah, we want some of that. But with the health system of China comes everything else, like AI and digital control of the fine detail of your life. You get the whole thing. And that's the idea. And, when people are using different excuses, like in London with Khan, the mayor, they're saying we need all these cameras. We need all these cameras to police the congestion zone and the pollution zone, and we need number plate cameras so we know what cars are polluting or whatever, or have entered the zone. Those cameras may be being put up with different excuses in the moment, but they're all being prepared for this whole 15-minute city system, whereby you're only allowed to leave an area with permission, and if you cross over, you're caught on the camera. And this is the other thing about the digital system and turning money into a digital phenomenon with no cash. The idea is that they can, through the digital control, take money out of your bank account anytime they want. And so when you cross, this is what happens in China now. When you cross a camera that's policing the zone you're supposed to stay in, then it's not that you can refuse to pay or challenge it. It will be taken out of your bank account the moment you cross
Yeah.
the threshold. So this is what's happening. I mean, Oxford is one of the leaders in Britain of this, but it's starting to happen in many places. And it's incremental, what I call the totalitarian tiptoe, step by step by step. And this is all happening all around us now. If you want to take people's attention from what's happening in that regard, you want them looking over there. And so you give them dramas and you give them attention grabbing things. And Trump's perfect for them. I mean, every morning you wake up and think, what's he bloody done now? He's a drama queen. He's an attention taker. And as a result of that, I look at some of these major players, especially since COVID, in the alternative media. And when do they talk about artificial intelligence and the whole takeover? They're talking about Trump. They're talking about the myopia. They're not talking about the real level of control. Many people in the alternative media are. I'm talking about that central part that gets all the algorithmic support, not the shadow banning, and the funding.
It seems to me that the only difference between China, technology to one side, and the West is that we live in the illusion where we have a say by voting. And that is all it is. We have the illusion, don't we?
Well, that is a very good point, because, like I say, it's all about control of perception. And what they've done is equate in the public mind the ability to vote every 4 or 5 years with freedom and democracy, or democracy and freedom become interchangeable in the public mind. And yet, when you break it down, what does it mean? You have an election campaign in which different parties are focusing particularly on different areas of the population. They've got to get their, if you like, natural support on side. So they tell them what they want to hear. And then they've got to get enough of the people who are like floating voters, as they call them, to actually win an election, or in the case of Keir Starmer in Britain, to get a third of the vote and get total control through his majority, which is absolutely insane. They call it democracy. But what is an election campaign? You get told what you want to hear. And so often, if you notice, and this, we've got obviously a political party headed by Nigel Farage in Britain, called Reform. They actually have just announced a bloody slogan, which is not, this is what we would do. The slogan is, get Starmer out, right? So it's not even about what we will do. It's about, well, we won't need to get rid of them. So many people voted Labour, a third of the vote, but still a lot of people voted Labour at the last British election because they wanted the Conservative Party out, right? It wasn't because they wanted Labour in. They wanted the Conservatives out. This is the way it works. So you tell the public what they want to hear, so that they will vote for you. And then, and that's another thing, just very quickly, change. That you hear that Obama, yes, constantly, but you saw it with Starmer in his election campaign. We stand for change. we're going to bring change. Now, why is it change? Which they never actually explain what that change is. They just say change, right? We need change. Well, it's because of the situation that most people are in. They don't like their status quo. They don't like what's happening to them. They don't like what's happening in their lives and their economic lives. So yeah, someone saying we want change, anything's better than this. That's why they do it. But they never kind of explain what that change is. And then they get into power, and there's no contract between the political party and the public that says they have to do what they said they would do, and they wouldn't do what they said they wouldn't do. And so they get over the line, just like Trump, classic example, him now. And then they do the opposite of what they said they would do. But there's no contract, there's no comeback. And they've now got 4 years, 5 years in which they do what they like. And then you have the choice of replacing them with another party, which will basically do the same.
Yes.
And so what they're doing is they're trying to focus your attention on the fact that politics is the answer. So therefore, if you don't like this party, then go for that party, to buy the time to reach the point where AI fusion is real. It's happening all the time. It's getting more and more all the time. And the digital control system is real. And once that's in place, they don't care who you vote for, because they'll control it anyway.
Yeah. No different really to what they're doing now, just
No,
more blatant.
yeah, and more extreme as
Mm,
the agenda goes on. But you're absolutely right. The difference between the permanent government in China and the permanent government in the West under different political party names, that's the only basic
mm.
difference in terms of having a say over your own society.
How do you think this is going to play out over the next few years?
Well, you know, this whole hierarchy, other dimensional, human dimensional levels of this hierarchy, uh, it wants complete control of humanity in right down to the fine detail, right down to what we think through the hive mind that they're putting into place. And they want control, in other words, of human perception. So the human AI fusion is simply the total control at last of human perception, where AI does your thinking through that fusion, that connection. And up to this point, they've had to manipulate, not least through censorship, they've had to manipulate the information that people receive from which they form their perceptions so that they come to the perception that's the desired one, because of one narrative basically being the dominant one, and censorship protecting the dominant narrative, as with COVID, for instance. But with AI human fusion, they want your thoughts and your perceptions to come direct from them. And when I look around, I'm seeing more and more people, the more extreme it gets, and you know, the more blatant it gets, the more and more people are waking up to the fact that there is some kind of conspiracy. But they're still not seeing, well, are not seeing the nature of the conspiracy. They're only seeing the myopia of it, not the origin and totality of it. And therefore, they are still uh, behaving in ways that suit the agenda. For example, while we individuals want a savior, some external savior, well, the cult will go on providing it. It might be a religious savior in your mind, or it might be a political savior as they perceive Trump and the MAGA, but it's an external savior. And if they control the savior, then you'll just go on following it. And you know, if you look at the alternative media, for instance, and the mainstreamers who've come in since COVID and basically taken control of it in so many ways, it's a classic example. We need to realize that we need to follow information. We don't follow people, because if you follow people, then they'll Pied Piper you, or a lot of them will. They'll Pied Piper you into the edge of the cliff. So instead of following people, like I'm follow Tucker Carlson, or I follow Candace Owens, or I follow Megyn Kelly, or I follow Alex Jones, instead of following people, follow information. Don't follow me. Look at what I'm saying and see what you think of it. Then make your decisions on how you respond to it. But don't follow an individual, because they will quite possibly not be who you think they are, and they'll lead you down the garden path, as we say in Britain, or they may really not have a big enough understanding of how it all works, and they'll keep you in the box that they're in. So don't follow people, follow information. And also, I would say, know this, that of all the things in all the world, the thing that is unquestionable, there's virtually nothing that's unquestionable, but this is, whatever you think you know, whatever I think I know, there's always more to know, always. And I've always worked on the principle of the quote attributed to the ancient Greek philosopher Socrates. Basically, wisdom is knowing how little we know. To know is to know you know nothing. That's the secret of knowledge. In other words, you realize that whatever you know, there's a phenomenal more to know. So you never stop. You don't think, oh, I got it now. No, you might have some of it, but there's always more to know. And if you follow people who don't go with that philosophy, for instance, then you're going to be limited by their sense of limitation. And it was the great quote from that German philosopher, Arthur Schopenhauer, which basically said, every man, it's not every man, but it is most people, every man thinks the limit of his own field of vision is the limit of the world. It ain't. There's always more to know. So don't follow people, me or anybody else. Follow the information that they're imparting and see what you think of it. And make of it what you think is right, not what someone says just because they say it.
It's fascinating you say that, because before we hit record, I asked you a couple of questions, and one thing that you mentioned was that you were referring to, I suppose, conspiracy theories and the rabbit holes that we investigate as being a bit like a jigsaw puzzle. And I've mentioned that myself over the years, that I'm kind of making the edge, as you said, I'm making the edge of the jigsaw puzzle. All the pieces are there, but you've got to fit them in yourself. You can't do all the work because we don't always get it right. And if you just take someone's word for it, it's no different to using ChatGPT. You're getting something else to do the hard work. You're not researching it, and you do need to do the legwork yourself to really understand what's going on. And there might be certain things that you've said today that resonate with people and encourage them to dig further, rather than just leaving it, accepting everything that we say as being true and moving on. It's the taking the horse to water, isn't it? Scenario, I suppose.
Yeah, and also, the mind is like a muscle. If you don't use it, it
Mm,
goes to sleep. And one of the things we were just chatting about before we started was, it's like I say, control of perception is the whole foundation of control of humans. And what's a little bit depressing is how easy it is for vast numbers of people, not everyone, not nearly everyone, but vast numbers, um, to get them to perceive what you tell them. And they do it without bloody question, not least because of this idea of following people. So, I've been accused of all bloody things. I mean, you name it, I've been accused of it in the last 36 years, being mad mostly. But anyway, but loads of things. And what? Okay, you expect that. You expect that from liars and frauds, and they're out there. But what's the depressing part comes not in people, you know, accusing you of this, that, and the other without any evidence, because there is none. It's the people that believe them in the absence of evidence. And so you hear the repeaters. That's the thing: repeaters, repeaters, repeaters. People who repeat what other people say without looking at it in any way themselves. That's what they are. They're repeaters, and you get them believing what other people say just because they've said it without saying, well, hold on a minute, where's your bloody evidence? No, no, none of that. They just believe it, and then they repeat it, and
yeah.
suddenly I'll give you a great example. Years ago, um, I because one of the great ways that this cult deals with rebels, if you like, renegades, uh, to its system, is it accuses them of what they're uncovering. It's a really old technique, and so when I was uncovering the whole global cult in the 1990s, um, and all these secret societies that I've been talking about, it started circulating. David Icke, he's a Freemason, right? So, okay. So, where's your evidence? And what they would do is produce the most ludicrously bad. I mean, with AI and deep fakes, it would be different now. But in those days, the most ludicrously bad um, pictures of Freemasons with my head put on it, right? And there was one amazing one. It was so bad. They'd taken a picture of my face off the back of one of my books and put it on a Freemason guy, right? And people they say he's a Freemason. But the best one was I was speaking in Boston, Massachusetts, and Boston is a really big Freemasonic center. It comes from the old British Empire, etc. And it had a big uh, Freemasonic hall. A big Freemasonic hall. So when I was speaking there, I wanted to go and have a look at it. And I thought I'd just have a look from the outside. I want to see what symbolism it had and all that stuff. Anyway, there was about two other people with me, maybe. Um, and we walked to the door. It was a glass door, as I remember. Looked through and couldn't see anybody. There was this big kind of open hall, but couldn't see anybody. So we went through the door, right? And I seem to remember there was someone over there in an office moving around, but they never kind of responded. So we kind of went on walking. But on the right hand side of this hall was this big glass kind of presentation uh, space where they had all these different uh, like symbols and there was something about Walt Disney and how he was a member of the Demole Society, which Bill Clinton was also a member of, connects into the Knights Templar, and all these different things. And so we just kept walking. And at the end of this hall, nobody there, it's like the Mary Celeste, was this staircase. So we start walking up the staircase, looking around, saying, what the bloody hell is going on? So we get up this staircase and walk these big bloody doors. They're bloody massive, right? So we walk in. It's a temple. It's one of their temples, right? Nobody there. The only guy we met in the entire time was a builder who didn't seem to be a Freemason, who was doing some building work. We had a chat with him briefly, and that was it. But there was no one else there. So we go into this Freemasonic temple area, and there is the Grand Master's chair. And I couldn't resist it, obviously. I had my street clothes on. I weren't dressed as a bloody Freemason because I ain't one. But so I sat in the chair and give it that, and people would took pictures of it, and I used that picture. It always got a great laugh. In those days, there wasn't any PowerPoint. It was like slides on a big
Yeah.
round thing you were doing, and I used it for years actually in my presentations around America and Britain. Of me sitting in the Freemason's chair. It was hilarious. So anyway, we then leave, and again, nobody apart from the builder. And then this picture of me in the Freemason's chair starts appearing on the internet. Proof, proof. He's a Freemason. And, the ease with which people believe things without any evidence is, well, it's quite depressing because, as I keep saying, control of perception is the whole foundation of human control collectively. And the ease with which people will believe things just because somebody tells them. Often, by the way, someone with a login name on some social media account, you don't even know who they are.
Yeah.
Oh, I've heard that David Icke, he's a Freemason, he's a Satanist, and all that stuff. Oh, really? Where do you get that from? Well, I got it from so and so. That was a bloody login name. Who is he? Well, I don't know who he is, but So yeah, it's
It's funny you say this, David, because I was speaking, as I mentioned, my son Sam earlier on, whose birthday's tomorrow. The last time, it's no secret. I tell everybody 20 years ago, give or take, I joined the Freemasons. Never got high up enough, saw a lot of corruption and left. And it's in my books. I talk about it a lot.
yeah, of course.
And I said to him this morning, and incidentally, actually, I was giving a talk in, I think it was Bournemouth at some point last summer. And someone came up to me afterwards and said, you're friends with the Ikes, aren't you? Let me show you this photo. And they showed me the photo of you sat in the chair. Sorry, no, beg your pardon.
No,
I,
that's
sorry,
hilarious.
beg your pardon. It wasn't that. They showed you the photo of you with well, your head cropped onto a Freemason,
Yeah,
and I
that's right. Yeah.
and I said, to best of my knowledge, he isn't. But just wait a moment. And then I did the Q&A about half an hour later, and one of the first questions was, I understand you joined the Freemasons. So I showed them a photo because my iPad was still connected to the projector. I showed them a photo of me wearing my apron at the Grand Lodge in Great Queen Street. I said, yes, I was. And I left. Oh well, you never leave though, do you? Because once you've signed, you've signed in blood. You've made a sacrifice, or it's a pledge, almost like a mortgage, a death pledge, and you can't leave. And I said, well, that's weird because I have. And where did you get this from that you can't leave? Because I joined the Cub Scouts when I was a kid, and I left them too.
Well, I
And
got turned down. I got turned down by the scouts. I did.
But the weird thing is that I often tell people that I joined and why. I wanted to find out. I wanted to get to the 33rd degree. I wanted to know everything, and I thought that I was going to learn as I progressed, and I did. And what I watched, because a lot of the flying squad went to the lodge I joined, I just watched corruption. But anyway, it was really strange this morning. I was speaking to my youngest son and said that I was really excited that you were coming on my channel today. And he said, "Dad, I don't know if this is good timing or not, but I received a message last night, and the secretary of the lodge wants you to contact them." Now, I haven't heard from them for a long time. I stopped going, I don't know, 8 years ago, something like that. I didn't even know they had my son's phone number because he joined and then stopped going after about 3 meetings. And I thought, what is this about? Have they heard something I've said, and it got the better of me. And in the end, I rung them. I rung this guy, he's called Martin, and I was a bit nervous. And I said to him, I haven't spoken to you for a while, why do you want to talk to me? He said, we need you to formally resign. He said, you stopped coming, but you never actually formally resigned. Here's the email address. You need to formally resign. I went, all right, okay. Someone somewhere's really unhappy with me then, aren't they, and what I've been
Well, that's
saying.
good.
But apparently I'm still a 33rd degree Freemason, not a third degree. And I'm controlled opposition. I was born a woman. And yeah,
Oh, yeah, yeah. My boys
yeah.
know that one.
It's fascinating, isn't it? The inversion thing I find strange because, my wife and my kids aren't aware that I was born a woman. They've got no idea. I mean, I didn't know either, but apparently I was. I keep hearing it.
No, it's extraordinary, and that's the thing you see is that people just believe anything. Oh, he's a woman, really? Oh, really? Okay, how do you know that? Well, so and so said it.
Mm.
It was the login name, wasn't it? Yeah, who's that? Okay. I mean, it really is pathetic, and they think they're streetwise. That's the sad thing, really.
Does it ever
Um,
get to you? Or did it?
um, well, what you learn, well, this is my philosophy. I mentioned this to you before we came on air. My philosophy has always been this: um, if people are so lacking in self-respect that they and so easily manipulated that they will believe what someone says, whoever they are, even a anonymous login name, and they'll believe it without any evidence, then they're lost to my work anyway. They get on with your life, say what you like, but you're lost to my work. So why should I bother, with worrying about what you think of me? It's of no interest to me. You're not relevant to my life and what I'm trying to do because you've shown that you'll believe anything. So what's the point of getting
Mm.
emotionally upset about that? I mean, I've had so much ridicule and abuse since 1990. And you just keep going, and you learn to let it be like water off a duck's back, because if you take it on emotionally, well, it will destroy you. It's like, how many people have committed suicide?
Yes.
Kids often, because of what's said to them online by often anonymous people.
Mm.
There's a lot of very sick people online, and a lot of people who, when they hide behind anonymous login names, will say things they'd never say to your face. So
Yes.
for me, if they haven't got respect for themselves, well, they're irrelevant to me anyway. So, say what you like, mate. I couldn't care less. And by the way, anyone who believes you, well, believe him. You lost in my work anyway. But that people are becoming more streetwise to some of these things now, and don't believe things on face value.
It's difficult, isn't it? People just do instantly. They'll read something, and I think we now live in a world where the person doesn't have to be right or wrong or even know what they're talking about. They just have to have a big enough following, and like sheep, the herd follow, don't they?
They do, and there's people in the alternative media like that,
Mm,
that people just follow, and instead of being discerning, well, what's the evidence for what they've just said? Okay, I get that they said this and they said that, and that turned out to be right, but this what they're just saying. What's the evidence for that?
yes.
And these are the questions that you question it, question everything, and question everyone, but do it on the basis of evidence, not just because someone's told you something. It's extraordinary that how naive people are in believing what people say just because they say it.
I
That's how
totally
we
agree.
got here. It's not how we're going to get out of this.
I totally agree. I'm conscious of the time, and we've gone a little bit over, haven't we? And is there a final message you have?
Well, the the whole foundation of human control, yes, it's perceptual control, but there's an element of that which is more important than anything else, and that's self-identity control. They want us to self-identify with a sense of self that suits the agenda of control. And that basically falls into two categories. One is that you are just a human. You are the result of a series of cosmic accidents and coincidences that led you from the primordial soup to Ethel on the checkout. And that's who you are. And, who knows why you were born, but it was just part of this cosmic accident. It's just the way things have evolved. And when you die, that's it. Lights go out all over. And then there's this other one, which says there is a God. I say the God they're worshipping is the Yoda Bayoff, manipulator of this matrix simulation.
I totally agree with you, David. Mm,
That's what they're worshipping.
mm,
And we can get in another time into
mm,
how this consciousness feeds off
mm.
human energy, human low vibrational energy, and how worship is a form of that energy which they can absorb and feed off us with. Um, uh, and as well as all the other low vibrational things like fear and anxiety, all of which generate a frequency. And this is mainstream science that's what happens. And so you've got a judgmental God who is not the God you think it is.
Mm.
And you've got many various religions to worship this God through, and that you have to keep this God happy because he's going to decide either through reincarnation or one life on earth only, whether you go to heaven or hell forever, right? So these are the two things. But there is another way of looking at this, and that is we are not human. We are not human. What is human? Well, human's the human body. Human is the human reality, what is I say is a simulation. And if you perceive yourself to be human as an I, you are self-identifying with limitation. You're self-identifying with I can't, it's not possible. If you self-identify with being subordinate to some God, then you are again in a point of subordination, because God's the one in control. You're not. And human is not who we are. It's what we're experiencing. This human body, I say, is a biological computer. It is the way, just like the computer in front of me decodes Wi-Fi into a completely different form on the screen. So we are decoding through this biological computer the matrix, the simulation, into the form that we think we're experiencing, but we aren't. In truth, it's an illusion. This is not a physical reality, it's a holographic reality, illusory physical reality. But I can go into great detail of all that another time. But so who are we then? Who are we? Well, we're consciousness. Ultimately, we are a formless state of awareness, of being aware. We are a state of being aware. The question is, how aware? The whole foundation of this simulation is to limit that awareness only within the realm that suits that which controls the matrix, the simulation. So it wants you to believe that you are only human and the lights go out, or that you're subordinate to some judgmental God who you then worship and feed him your energy through that focus. But you can also see yourself as consciousness, awareness, consciousness that leaves the body at the end of a human life. And what happens at death? Well, the vehicle, the biological computer, ceases to decode the simulation. The human level of the simulation has multiple levels. And therefore, it ceases to function. That's what it does. And your consciousness is then released into another reality, which is what is described endlessly throughout human history by these people called near-death experiences, where the body dies briefly, they experience a completely different reality, and then the body's revived and they're back in this one. And so if this computer in front of me ceases to function and ceases to decode the internet, then the screen goes blank. And what do we say? My computer's died. Exactly. Yes. That's what this is. It's a biological computer, and it's decoding the matrix in the way I describe in books like the Roadmap. And once the computer ceases to function, what we call death, it no longer feeds or delivers to our consciousness this fake reality. Therefore, we find ourselves in another reality. And the way out of the matrix in totality is to reach a not just conclusion, not just a conceptual level of awareness, but a knowing that it's all an illusion, that you are consciousness, that your true, quote, home is infinity beyond the simulation, beyond the frequency walls of the simulation. And the more that we self-identify with limitation, with subordination, the lower our frequency is that we are vibrating on. And the idea is to keep your vibrational state within the walls of the simulation, the matrix. So when you leave the body, you go into what the Buddhists call the wheel of samsara, and you come back to be recycled and become a source of energy to the matrix again. But the more that you expand your self-identity from I am just a human, I'm Bill driving the bus and Beryl down the call center, to I am all that is, has been, and ever can be, having a brief experience called those things. When you realize that it's not that we are subordinate to the great infinity, what people think they're worshipping as God, we are expressions of it. We are extensions of it. We are it ultimately. If you expand and open your consciousness enough to connect with the whole, you become the whole. And the more that you expand your self-identity deeper and deeper into all that is, has been, and ever can be, the faster, quicker your frequency becomes, because you're starting to connect with that level outside of the matrix. And while you're in the body, you start to see what you couldn't see before. Because if you stay in terms of your frequency through your perceptual state, your self-identity state within the matrix, then you're in the matrix and of the matrix, and all your information and perceptions of reality formed from that information is coming from the matrix. But once you start to redefine your self-identity to the true self, the true I, which is ultimately infinite, you go beyond the frequency walls of the matrix, even while you're in a human body. And suddenly you start to see things you couldn't see before. And people have said to me, look, mate, it's so bloody obvious now I look at it. Why didn't I see it before? Because you were there before. Now you're tapping into levels of awareness, insight, knowledge that exists outside of the matrix, and you're now seeing it. Because in terms of your consciousness, you're now looking in at it rather than being in it and of it. And if you can leave the body in that state of awareness, then bye-bye, wheel of samsara. You're out of here. See you later. All the best. Have a good one. You're gone. But the idea is to hold you in that perceptual state that expresses itself as a frequency state within the matrix. And this is why they fundamentally why, there are other reasons, they want to fuse AI with the human brain and the human body. Because once AI is dictating your thoughts, your emotional responses, your perception of reality, you're not going to think things like, Who am I? Where am I?
Mm.
What is this place? Uh, whose role in the world? To what end? You're not going to think of any of these things because AI will not be thinking that for you. It's the ultimate control system, and that's why they're desperate to bring it in.
Thank you. Thank you, David. I really appreciate you sharing your wisdom and your time too. But it's been a pleasure speaking to you, and I really do appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Yeah, so you're going to be speaking in September, aren't you, in Eastbourne?
Yes, yes, yes. You, I, Billy Carson. It's yeah, really looking forward to that.
Yeah, I look forward to meeting you, mate, and having a chat and seeing your presentation because I'm fascinated by the whole Tartaria thing.
Well, I missed you when I came up to your offices. I just missed you. But I came up to be interviewed by Gareth.
That's right.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
literally, I think you just driven out the car park as I drove in.
Oh, whoa! But if I knew, I must have not known you were coming, or I would have stayed. But um, I look forward to seeing you in Eastbourne in September. That'd be great. There's a
Yeah,
lot
thank
of
you.
great speakers. Really,
Yeah.
a lot of insight going to be
I
there.
actually, I said to Danny Henderson, the organizer, for those that don't know Danny, that it's strange because I didn't think when I started writing that I would be on a stage with people that I'd followed for so long,
Mm.
and that I had imposter syndrome. And of course, she then, told me to shut up and, a few choice words along the way. But I'm very honoured to be on the same platform as yourself and Billy Carson.
Yeah, well, there's no imposter syndrome unless you're not genuine, and clearly you are, so that's not a problem.
Thank you. But yeah, I am really looking forward to it, and I'm looking forward to meeting you because we've spoken over Zoom before, but I haven't actually got a chance to meet you personally. And
Yeah, that'd be good because I'm fascinated by what other people have got to say.
yeah, me too. I think it's going to be a fun weekend. That weekend, a fun event. I
Yeah,
actually don't know what days it falls on. I don't know if it's during the week or at the weekend. All I know is it's in September, but it's in the diary somewhere.
yeah, it's over the weekend.
Oh, it is.
I think it is. Yeah, and
Oh,
so what's it called again? The
GISC.
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah, I
No.
think I've got that right, haven't I? Sounds right.
Yeah. Yeah. Close.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I,
So it'd be very good. Very good. I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, me too. I often say to people the reason I started writing my first book was because I'm having problems with my memory. And my wife said, you need to get all of these notebooks you've got piled up everywhere and put them into some sort of order. So 10 years from now, you can pick one up and it makes sense because otherwise you're going to forget what you wrote. You're going to forget all of this research. It's going to go. But a story for another time. But the NHS fried my brain about 10 years ago.
Oh, oh.
Fried it. I have to write everything down now, or it didn't happen. It was never said, and it's gone for good. It's in the ether somewhere. But my memory is failing, and I've tried everything, and nothing's helped so far.
Right. Oh.
Mm. But there are worse things, aren't there? But I think as long as I've got a pen and a notepad, it's something that I can work round.
Yeah. Have you tried coconut oil?
Yes, coconut oil, lion's mane is the latest one I'm on.
Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, I've tried that. Potassium, everything, absolutely everything.
Yeah.
Um, and they did it. I think they've done irreparable damage. But it was horrific. What started off as a slip disc ended up in them prescribing me antipsychotic drugs. That's what I found out they were
Whoa.
from for a slip disc,
Whoa.
doped up
Crazy
on
stuff.
diazepam and antipsychotics for back pain ultimately. Yeah, and I
Uh,
got to a point where I went from not being able to stand up properly without severe pain to not being able to leave the house through fear and paranoia because of
that's
what they were pumping.
astonishing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and that was it. From that point on, I would leave the house, forget why. We all have the moments where you go upstairs and you're not sure why you went there, but I would actually go to a shop and not know what I was doing in there, and I would buy something for the sake of it. and come home, and my wife would say, "Well, what have you bought a printer cartridge for? We needed bread." And I was too embarrassed to come back empty-handed, so I would just buy anything.
Well,
And
you've written some great books, despite everything, mate. So well,
thank you. Likewise, crikey. But yeah, thank you. But yeah, while I'm writing notes down everywhere, I'll continue to try and put them into some kind of sense, and just hope people enjoy reading them. But I'll keep going until I can't anymore.
well, all the best anyway. You're doing great.
Thank you, and thank you, and that really does mean a lot coming from you, David. It really does. So I know I appreciate it, and I do really appreciate your time. So thank you.
No problem. It's been a pleasure.
Bye for now.
See ya. See you, mate.
Bye bye.
Bye.